My boss told me loyalty does not pay off after working to develop our company for the past 6 years. He emphatically said it was time to replace me. I smiled and left the office immediately, knowing I could strike him later. Hey there. Thanks so much for sticking with us. Your support keeps this channel alive, and we're truly grateful. If you're loving these tales, hit that subscribe button to join the ride. Oh, and drop a comment letting us know what city you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear it, and you might just get a shout out in our next story. Speaking of which, today's special shout out goes to Sean Derry in Birmingham, UK. Glad you're enjoying the journey. O'Day's story is quite different from the usual stories we share, and we would love your honest feedback. Thanks in advance. Now let's dive into today's story. The hum of the server room was Ethan Carver's lullaby. For 6 years, he'd spent more nights at Nextlify's Silicon Valley headquarters than in his own bed, the glow of monitors painting his face in flickering blues and greens. At 32, he wasn't the youngest coder in the building anymore, but he was the best. Everyone knew it, even if they didn't say it. His fingers danced across the keyboard now, finalizing the last patch for Nextlify Core, the software that had turned a middling IT firm into the darling of the tech world. It was his baby, a sleek, ruthless beast of code that optimized cloud computing and locked out cyber threats like a digital fortress. Tonight, he'd pushed it to perfection. Ethan leaned back in his chair, the worn leather creaking under his slight frame. His desk was a chaos of empty coffee cups, scribbled post-its, and a dying succulent Maya had given him last Christmas. He rubbed his eyes, the sting of fatigue settling in, and glanced at the clock, 10:47 p.m. The office beyond the glass walls of his corner cubicle was dark, save for the faint glow spilling from the executive floor upstairs. He'd heard the board was meeting late, probably toasting their latest quarterly earnings. Earnings he'd delivered. He stood, stretching his stiff back, and grabbed his jacket. A quick detour to the vending machine for a Coke, then home, maybe even a full 6 hours of sleep for once. As he shuffled down the hall, the muffled sound of voices drifted from the stairwell leading to the executive suite. Curiosity tugged at him. He'd never been one for eavesdropping, but 6 years of loyalty earned a little nosiness, didn't it? He climbed the stairs quietly, the carpet muting his steps, and paused outside the cracked door of the boardroom. Ethan's a cog in the machine, came Victor Grayson's voice, sharp and clipped, like a blade slicing through the air. Ethan froze, his hand hovering over the railing. Victor, Nextlify's CEO, was a man who wore charisma like a tailored suit, dark hair slicked back, a smile that could charm investors out of millions. Ethan had always admired him, even if he kept his distance. Loyalty doesn't pay the bills, Victor went on, his tone dripping with disdain. Results do. Nextlify Core is locked in now. We don't need him tinkering anymore. I've got an offshore team lined up in Bangalore. Half the cost, twice the output. Ethan's stomach twisted. He pressed himself against the wall, breath shallow, as another voice, probably CFO Linda Hayes, chimed in. What about pushback? He's been here forever. The staff likes him. They'll get over it, Victor snapped. He's a coder, not a mascot. We announce it next week, clean break. He's replaceable. Replaceable. The word hit Ethan like a punch to the throat. 6 years of missed holidays, of debugging until his vision blurred, of turning Victor's vague vision into a reality that had Wall Street buzzing. He built Nextlify Core from scratch, line by painstaking line, while Victor schmoozed at conferences and posed for Forbes. And now this. Outsourced. Discarded. A cog. He slipped back down the stairs, legs shaky, and slumped into his chair. The office felt colder now, the hum of the servers mocking him. His screen stared back, Nextlify Core's interface gleaming in polished blacks and silvers. It was beautiful, efficient, a masterpiece, and it wasn't enough. He'd given everything, and they were ready to toss him out like yesterday's code. Ethan's hand drifted to his mouse, almost on instinct, and clicked open a hidden folder buried deep in his personal drive. Nextlify Apex. The name glowed in stark white text against the dark window. It was his side project, his obsession, a next-generation evolution of Core. Faster data processing, predictive AI that could anticipate threats before they even formed, a user interface so intuitive it felt like an extension of thought. He'd been tinkering with it for months, late at night when the office emptied out, telling himself it was just a passion project. A gift for Nextlify's future. He hadn't shown it to anyone, not Victor, not even Maya. It was his. He opened the code base, scrolling through lines of elegant, brutal efficiency. This wasn't just better than Core, it was a leap forward, a paradigm shift. He kept it locked away, waiting for the right moment to unveil it, to prove he was more than a cog. But now? Now it felt like a loaded gun in his hands. The clock ticked past 11 o'clock. Ethan's jaw tightened, a flicker of something hot and unfamiliar sparking in his chest. Anger, yes, but something else too: clarity. Victor thought he was disposable? Fine. Let him see what disposable looked like when it walked out the door with the keys to the kingdom. He pulled a USB drive from his desk drawer, the one with the scuffed Batman logo he'd had since college, and plugged it in. The transfer began, Nextlify Apex's files copying over with the software. He wasn't stealing anything, every line of this was his, built on his own time, his own machine. Nextlify's servers wouldn't even know it existed. Yet, footsteps echoed down the hall, security, probably, doing their rounds. Ethan yanked the USB out as the progress bar hit 100%, shoved it into his pocket, and shut down his computer. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the exit, the weight of the drive pressing against his thigh like a promise. The night air hit him as he stepped outside, crisp and sharp, cutting through the fog in his head. He didn't look back at the glass tower gleaming under the stars. In his beat-up Honda, driving down the 101 toward his cramped apartment in Mountain View, Ethan's mind raced. He saw Victor's smirk, heard that cold, casual, replaceable, over and over. He gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles whitening. 6 years of loyalty, and they'd sell him out for a cheaper team halfway across the world. But they didn't know what he had. They didn't know what he could do. By the time he pulled into his parking spot, the shock had hardened into resolve. He climbed the stairs to his apartment, the USB drive a quiet pulse in his pocket. Inside, he flicked on the lights, dropped his keys on the counter, and booted up his personal laptop, a Frankenstein rig of salvage parts and high-end upgrades. Nextlify Apex loaded onto the screen, its code sprawling out like a map to a new world. Ethan sat down, cracked open the Coke he'd never gotten from the vending machine, and took a long sip. The betrayal stung, but it was fuel now. Victor wanted results? Ethan would give him results, just not the ones he expected. He set the can down, leaned forward, and started typing. Ethan's apartment smelled faintly of burnt toast and old books, a cramped one-bedroom in Mountain View where the rent ate half his paycheck. The living room doubled as his workspace, a sagging IKEA couch shoved against one wall, dwarfed by a desk that looked like a tech junkyard, wires spilling from an open tower, a second monitor propped on a stack of wired magazines, and a keyboard with half the letters worn off. He built this rig himself, piece by scavenged piece, back when he was still naive enough to think passion could buy him a future at Nextlify. Now, at 2:13 a.m., it was his war room. The laptop screen bathed the room in a cold white glow, Nextlify Apex's code base sprawling across it like a living thing. Ethan sat hunched over, his hoodie sleeves pushed up, fingers hovering above the keys. The USB drive from the office rested beside a half-empty Coke, its Batman logo glinting faintly. He transferred the files an hour ago, triple-checking every line to ensure nothing tied back to Nextlify's servers. This was his creation, born in stolen moments between deadlines, and it was flawless, almost. There was still a glitch in the AI's predictive engine, a tiny stutter that could crash it under heavy load. He'd fix it tonight. He had to. His phone buzzed on the desk, rattling a stack of unopened bills. A text from Maya Patel. "You okay? Saw you bolt out of the office like it was on fire." Maya, the QA lead who'd been his lifeline at Nextlify, sharp-tongued, perpetually caffeinated, the only one who'd ever called Victor out to his face and lived to tell it. Ethan hesitated, then typed back, "Not really. Can you come over? Need to talk." He hit send before he could overthink it. 20 minutes later, the doorbell buzzed. Ethan opened it to find Maya, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, a reusable coffee mug in one hand, and a laptop bag slung over her shoulder. "You look like death," she said, stepping past him without waiting for an invitation. "What's going on?" He shut the door, leaning against it as the words spilled out, Victor's voice in the boardroom, the outsourcing plan, the casual way they'd gutted 6 years of his life. Maya listened, her expression hardening, until he finished with, "They think I'm replaceable." She set her mug down with a clunk. "I told you Victor's a shark. Last month, he grilled me about cutting QA costs, wanted me to sign off on sloppy releases. I said no, and he's been icing me out since. She crossed her arms, pacing the small room. You're not replaceable, Ethan. Core is you. They're idiots if they think Bangalore can replicate that. They won't have to, he said quietly. He turned the laptop toward her, Nextlify Apex glowing on the screen. This is what I've been working on. Maya's eyes widened as she sank onto the couch, scanning the interface. She clicked through the demo he'd mocked up, a sleek dashboard that anticipated server lags before they happened, rerouting data with surgical precision. Holy shit, she muttered. This is next level. Predictive AI? You built this alone. Mostly at night, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. It's not done yet, the AI's buggy under stress. But it's mine, not Nextlify's. She looked up, a slow grin spreading across her face. You're going to burn them to the ground with this, aren't you? Ethan didn't answer right away. He walked to the window, staring out at the sodium-lit parking lot, the hum of the freeway a distant pulse. Burn them down? Maybe. But it wasn't just revenge, it was survival. Victor had made it clear, loyalty was a sucker's game. Ethan had played it too long, and now he was done. I'm resigning tomorrow, he said finally, turning back to her. And I'm launching this. My own company. Apex Innovations. Maya's grin faltered, replaced by something sharper, respect, maybe, or excitement. You're serious. Dead serious. He sat back down, pulling up a browser. I registered the LLC an hour ago. $50 online, cheaper than dinner. Now I need to polish this, get a demo ready, figure out how to pitch it. She slid her laptop out of her bag, cracking it open. Then let's move. I'll test the AI, see where it's choking. You focus on the pitch. She paused, meeting his eyes. You're not doing this alone, by the way. I'm in. Ethan blinked. You don't have to shut up, she cut him off. Already typing. Victor's screwing me too. I'd rather build something with you than watch him tank Nextlify into mediocrity. Besides, I'm not letting you debug this monster solo. You'll miss something. A faint smile tugged at his lips, the first in hours. Thanks, Maya. Don't thank me yet, she said, tossing him a USB stick of her own. Load me the source code. We've got work to do. The next 4 hours blurred into a haze of coffee and code. Ethan tore into the AI's logic, tracing the glitch to a memory leak in the prediction algorithm, nothing fatal, but enough to stall it under 1 million simultaneous requests. He rewrote the function from scratch, his mind razor-sharp despite the exhaustion clawing at him. Maya hammered the system with stress tests, her screen flashing red with errors, then green as they patched each one. By 6 a.m., the sun was creeping over the hills, and Nextlify Apex hummed smoothly through a simulated load that would have crashed Core in seconds. Ethan leaned back, staring at the screen. It's ready. Maya stretched, cracking her neck. Barely. But yeah, it's a beast. You've got a demo that'll make jaws drop. She hesitated, then added, You sure about this? Once you walk out, there's no going back. He thought of Victor's voice, that smug, replaceable echoing in his skull. He thought of the late nights, the code that had become his pulse, the life he'd poured into a company that didn't give a damn. I'm sure, he said, his voice steady. They want results? They'll get them. She nodded, packing up her laptop. Get some sleep, then. You've got a resignation to deliver. Ethan walked her to the door, the dawn light spilling across the chipped linoleum. After she left, he didn't sleep. Instead, he opened a blank document and started typing. To Victor Grayson and the Nextlify board, effective immediately, I resign my position as senior software engineer. The words flowed, crisp and final, no trace of the anger simmering beneath them. He printed it on the ancient inkjet he kept for emergencies, folded the letter into an envelope, and set it on the counter. Then he showered, swapped the hoodie for a button-down shirt, still wrinkled, but clean, and grabbed his keys. The USB drive went into his pocket, a quiet weight against his hip. He wasn't just walking away from Nextlify today. He was walking towards something bigger, and Victor had no idea what was coming. The morning sun glared off Nextlify's glass facade, a towering prism of steel and ambition that swallowed Ethan whole as he stepped through the revolving doors. He'd driven the familiar stretch of the 101 in a daze, the resignation letter crisp in his jacket pocket, the USB drive a steady pressure against his thigh. His wrinkled button-down felt like armor, thin and untested, but it was all he had. At 8:47 a.m., the lobby buzzed with the usual chaos, coders clutching lattes, sales reps barking into earbuds, the receptionist juggling 3 calls at once. Ethan moved through it like a ghost, unnoticed, his sneakers silent on the polished marble. He took the elevator to the 5th floor, the executive wing, where the air smelled of leather and money. Victor's office loomed at the end of the hall, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed Silicon Valley like a conqueror's map. Ethan's stomach churned, not from fear but from the weight of what he was about to do. 6 years of late nights, of debugging under fluorescent lights, of swallowing Victor's backhanded "good work" kid comments, it all ended today. And it wouldn't end quietly. The door was ajar, Victor's voice drifting out, smooth and commanding. Tell them the Q2 projections are locked. If they push back, remind them who's leading the market. He was on a call, pacing behind his desk, a Bluetooth headset blinking blue against his ear. Ethan knocked once, sharp, and stepped inside without waiting. Victor glanced up, mid-sentence, his dark eyes narrowing. He was 45 but looked younger, tanned, sharp-jawed, the kind of guy who spent weekends on a yacht and called it networking. Hold on, he muttered into the headset, tapping it off. Ethan, what's this? You don't have a meeting. No, Ethan said, his voice steady despite the pulse hammering in his throat. He pulled the envelope from his pocket and set it on the desk, the paper stark against the polished mahogany. This is my resignation. Effective immediately. Victor stared at it, then at Ethan, a slow smirk curling his lips. He didn't touch the letter, just leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his tailored blazer. You're kidding me. After last night's patch? You think now's the time to play hardball? It's not a play, Ethan said. I'm done. The smirk faltered, just for a second, replaced by a flicker of something colder, calculation, maybe, or annoyance. Victor stood, circling the desk with the lazy confidence of a predator sizing up prey. Let me guess. You've got a better offer. What? Google? Microsoft? They'll chew you up, kid. You're a cog, brilliant, sure, but a cog. You need a machine like this to shine. Ethan's jaw tightened, the word, replaceable, echoing from last night. He met Victor's gaze, unflinching. You're wrong. I don't need you. You needed me. Victor laughed, a short, barking sound that bounced off the glass walls. Oh, this is rich. You think Core makes you irreplaceable? It's ours now, locked, loaded, and scaling. We've got a team in Bangalore ready to take over maintenance. You're a loose end, Ethan. Go ahead, walk out. You'll be begging for this job in a month. Ethan said nothing. He turned and left, the click of the door behind him louder than any retort. Victor's laugh followed him down the hall, but it didn't matter. The real move was already in motion. Back in his car, parked crookedly in the lot, Ethan pulled out his laptop, a battered Dell he'd kept from his college days, now loaded with Nextlify Apex. He connected to his phone's hotspot, fingers flying as he uploaded the demo to a bare-bones website he'd built overnight. No frills, just a black page with white text. Apex Innovations. The future of cloud computing. Try the demo. Below it, a link to a sandbox version of Apex, enough to hook anyone who knew what they were looking at. He locked the full code base behind encryption Maya had helped him set up, but this teaser was gold. Real-time threat prediction, seamless data rerouting, all in a package that made Core look like a toy. He emailed the link to 3 people, not random shots, but precision strikes. First, Priya Anand, CTO of Zenith Bank, Nextlify's biggest client, who'd once complimented Ethan's elegant solutions at a conference. Second, Tom Rivera, a grizzled VP at Cloudsies, a mid-tier firm Nextlify had edged out last year. He'd jump at a chance to flip the script. Third, Lila Chin, a tech journalist at the circuit who'd been sniffing around Nextlify's rumored cost-cutting moves. Each email was short, professional, with a personal touch. Priya, thought you'd appreciate this upgrade. Tom, this could level the field. Lila, here's a story worth digging into. He hit send, closed the laptop, and drove home, the adrenaline buzzing like static in his veins. By noon, his phone pinged. Priya, this is impressive. Call me. Then Tom, how soon can we test this live? Lila's reply was a single word. Whoa. Ethan didn't answer yet. He needed the wave to build. It didn't take long. By 3 p.m., Twitter was humming. A junior dev at Cloudsies had posted a screenshot of the demo, captioned, "Someone just dropped a nuke on Nextlify's turf." Lila tweeted, "Hearing whispers of a coder's coup at a Valley giant. Stay tuned." The Apex site's traffic spiked 50 hits, then 200, then 800 in an hour. Ethan watched the analytics from his couch, a cold pizza slice in hand, as the numbers climbed. He'd expected a ripple. This was a tidal wave. At 6:42 p.m., his phone rang. Victor's name flashed on the screen. Ethan let it go to voicemail, then played it on speaker. Ethan, what the hell is this Apex nonsense? Victor's voice was tight, the charm stripped away. You think you can poach our clients with some side hustle? Call me back. We'll figure this out. A pause, then softer. You don't want to burn this bridge. Ethan deleted the message. He didn't smile. Smiling felt too small for what was happening. He lit the match, and Nextlify's stock ticker was already twitching downward, a 2% dip by close of market. It wasn't enough to tank them, not yet, but it was a crack in the foundation. Victor had laughed him out of the office, called him a loose end. Now the loose end was pulling the thread. He stood, stretching, and glanced at the resignation letter's empty envelope on the counter. The day wasn't over. He texted Maya, "It's live. They're biting." Her reply came fast, "Told you. Next step, scale it." Ethan nodded to himself, grabbed his laptop, and headed to the desk. Victor thought he'd won the morning. He had no idea the war had just started. The boardroom at Nextlify smelled of stale coffee and desperation, a far cry from the polished confidence it usually exuded. Victor Grayson stood at the head of the long oak table, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up like a general rallying a battered army. The wall screen blared red, Nextlify's stock down 7% in pre-market trading, a jagged line that mocked yesterday's swagger. Around him, the board sat grim-faced. Linda Hayes, the CFO, tapping a pen against her tablet. Mark Ellison, the COO, staring at his phone like it might save them, and half a dozen others, suits rumpled from a night that hadn't ended. "It's a stunt," Victor snapped, slamming a hand on the table. The sound echoed, sharp against the hum of the HVAC. "Ethan's throwing a tantrum because I called his bluff. This Apex crap, it's a demo, not a product. We've got core in production, locked with every major client. He's got nothing." Linda didn't look up from her tablet. Zenith Bank's CTO emailed at 6 a.m. "They're exploring options with Apex Innovations. That's 20% of our revenue, Victor." "Then lock them down," he barked. "Call Priya. Tell her this is a disgruntled ex-employee stirring shit. We'll sue him for IP theft if we have to." Mark cleared his throat, his voice low. "Legal's already on it. Problem is, Ethan's clean. Core's codebase is ours, but this Apex thing, he built it off ours. No trace on our servers. We've got no claim." Victor's jaw tightened, a vein pulsing at his temple. He'd laughed Ethan out of his office yesterday, picturing him slinking off to some mid-tier gig. Instead, the kid had lobbed a grenade. Twitter was a war zone. Hashtag NextLifyCou trending. Coders dissecting Apex's demo like it was scripture. Lila Chen's latest post hinting at a David versus Goliath scoop. And the stock, God, the stock, was bleeding. "Fine," he said, forcing calm into his voice. "We downplay it. Press release. Ethan's a lone wolf, unstable, overreacting to a routine restructure. Meanwhile, we push core updates, remind everyone who's king, and get Bangalore online yesterday." Linda finally met his eyes, her gaze icy. "You sure about this? If Apex scales, we're not just losing clients. We're losing the narrative." "Then we take it back," Victor said, grabbing his phone. "Meeting's over. Move." Across town, Ethan's apartment was a hive of quiet chaos. The desk was a tangle of cables and empty Red Bull cans, two laptops open, one running Apex's analytics, the other fielding a flood of emails. Maya sat cross-legged on the couch, her MacBook balanced on her knees, stress-testing the demo's sandbox for the 10th time that morning. The traffic counter on the Apex site ticked past 5,000 hits, coders, CTOs, even a few VCs sniffing opportunity. Ethan stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, voice low but firm. "Yes, Priya, it's production ready," he said, watching a delivery truck rumble past below. "We can deploy a pilot for Zenith by next week. 50 servers, full integration. You'll see the difference in latency alone." Priya Anand's voice crackled through, clipped and precise. "I'm impressed, Ethan, but I need guarantees. Nextlify's breathing down my neck. Victor called an hour ago, offering discounts. What's your edge? Predictive rerouting, he said without hesitation. Core reacts to threats. Apex stops them before they hit. Your downtime drops to near zero. I'll send you the white paper. Numbers don't lie. A pause, then, send it. We'll talk tomorrow. She hung up. Ethan exhaled, tossing the phone onto the counter. Maya glanced up, smirking. She's hooked. Told you the AI was the kicker. Barely, he said, running a hand through his hair. Tom at Clouds East wants a live test too, tomorrow. We need to scale the sandbox, stress it harder. On it, she said, fingers already flying. But heads up, Twitter's saying Nextlify's prepping a smear. Disgruntled coder angle. Ethan's stomach twisted. He'd expected pushback, but not this fast. He grabbed his laptop, pulling up Nextlify's site. A press release blinked live. Nextlify addresses former employees' unauthorized actions, committed to stability, robust roadmap ahead. Subtle, but venomous. Victor was painting him as a loose cannon. They're scared, Maya said, not looking up. Good. Or desperate, Ethan muttered. He refreshed the stock ticker, down 9% now. His chest tightened. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was a brawl. The phone rang again, Victor's number. Ethan hesitated, then answered, putting it on speaker so Maya could hear. What do you want? He said, keeping his tone flat. Victor's voice came through, taut as a wire. Ethan, you've had your fun. This Apex stunt's cute, but it's over. Zenith's not going anywhere. Neither is Cloudsies. Come back, we'll double your salary. Lead the Bangalore team if you want. Let's not tank each other over pride. Maya mouthed bullshit, shaking her head. Ethan stared at the phone, Victor's words slithering through the room. Double his salary, 6 figures to sit in a cushy office, babysitting a team he didn't trust, while Victor took credit again. Pride? This wasn't pride. This was principle. You taught me something yesterday, Ethan said, his voice low. Loyalty doesn't pay bills. Results do. I'm getting results now. Check your stock. He hung up, the silence that followed heavy with finality. Maya let out a low whistle. Damn, he's rattled. He should be, Ethan said, but his hands shook as he set the phone down. Victor wasn't wrong about one thing. Ethan was playing with fire. If Apex stumbled, if the demo crashed under scrutiny, he'd be the one begging. By evening, the counterstrike landed. An email from Nextlify's legal team hit his inbox. Cease and desist. Potential IP infringement. Immediate action required. It was a bluff. Ethan knew it, Mark's words about clean code echoing in his mind. But it stung. Then Twitter lit up. A leaked memo, supposedly from Ethan, ranting about corporate greed. Fake, sloppy, but enough to muddy the waters. They're swinging wild, Maya said, scanning the posts. We need to hit back, hard. Ethan nodded, pulling up the Apex site. We go live with the white paper. Full specs, open to scrutiny. Let the text speak. He spent the next hour polishing the document. Charts showing Apex's edge in latency, throughput, security, then posted it with a tweet. Apex Innovations, built for the future. See the data. Decide for yourself. The response was instant. Coders tore into it, praising the AI's elegance. A VC DM'd him about funding. But Victor's voice lingered in his head. Tank each other over pride. Ethan shoved it down. This wasn't pride. This was war. And he wasn't backing off. The newsroom at the circuit hummed with the chaos of a breaking story. Lila Chen sat at her desk, a fortress of monitors and half-eaten takeout, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She'd been up since 4 a.m., chasing the Nextlify implosion. Tweets, leaks, stock charts, all swirling into a narrative too juicy to ignore. Her latest draft glowed on the screen. The coder who built an empire, and the CEO who lost it. The headline was bold, maybe too bold, but the numbers backed it up. Nextlify's stock had tanked 18% in 2 days, and Ethan Carver's Apex Innovations was the blade at its throat. She hit publish at 9:03 a.m., and the internet detonated. Across Silicon Valley, Ethan's apartment was a warren of focus. The couch was buried under pizza boxes and printouts, the air thick with the buzz of overworked laptops. He stood at the desk, eyes locked on the Apex site's analytics, 12,000 hits since the white paper dropped last night, 300 demo requests, and a dozen enterprise inquiries. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, her MacBook tethered to a second monitor running a live test for Cloudsies. The screen flashed green. Apex had just handled a simulated DDoS attack, 10 million requests per second, without a hiccup. Tom Rivera's email popped up. Live test passed. We're in. Contract by end of day. Ethan's phone buzzed again, Priya on it. He answered, pacing the small room. Priya, you get the white paper? Got it, she said, her voice clipped but warm. And I saw the circuit. You're making waves, Ethan. Zenith's board just approved a pilot, 100 servers, full rollout if it holds. But Victor's on my tail offered a 30% discount to stay with Core. Convince me. Ethan stopped, glancing at Maya, who gave a thumbs up. Run the pilot, he said. Apex cuts your latency by 40%, predicts failures Core can't see. Victor's discount won't save you from downtime. I'll stake my name on it. A beat of silence, then. Done. Contracts tomorrow. She hung up. Maya grinned, tossing him a Red Bull. That's two. Zenith and Cloudsies. Nextlify's bleeding out. Ethan caught the can but didn't open it, his mind racing. The stock ticker on his laptop showed Nextlify at $42 a share, down from $65 3 days ago. Lila's article was everywhere. Hashtag Nextlify fall trending, coders praising Apex's AI like it was a godsend. But Victor wasn't done. Ethan could feel it, a predator's instinct lurking beneath the chaos. At Nextlify's headquarters, the boardroom was a graveyard. Victor stood alone, the table empty, the screen behind him a bloodbath of red lines. The Bangalore team had floundered. Core's latest update crashed under load, and clients were screaming. Zenith's pilot with Apex had leaked, Cloudsies' defection was public, and smaller firms were jumping ship. The stock hit $38, then $35, as panic selling kicked in. Victor's phone was a brick. Calls from investors, none answered. He'd fired the PR team an hour ago after their disgruntled coder spin backfired, amplifying Ethan's underdog story. He grabbed his tablet, pulling up the circuits piece. Lila Chen's words burned. Victor Grayson built Nextlify on Ethan Carver's genius, then threw him away. Now Carver's back, and he's winning. Victor hurled the tablet against the wall, the crack of glass punctuating the silence. He'd underestimated Ethan, thought him a quiet nerd, not a viper. Bangalore was a bust, legal had nothing, and the board was whispering about his head. Then it hit him, a last play. He called Derek Voss, a junior dev he'd kept in his pocket, a kid with sticky fingers and a grudge against Ethan's perfectionism. Derek, Victor said, voice low, I need a favor. Big bonus if you pull it off. An hour later, Ethan's laptop pinged, a crash report from the Apex sandbox. Maya cursed, diving into the logs. Someone slipped a bug in, memory overflow, takes it down at scale. Subtle, but it's there. Ethan's gut clenched. Victor. Probably, she said, tracing the exploit. Planted through a backdoor. Looks like a user upload. We've got thousands hitting the demo. Could have been anyone. Ethan's mind raced. A bug like this could tank trust. Clients like Priya wouldn't touch a shaky system. He grabbed his keyboard, joining Maya in the hunt. They found it in 20 minutes. A clever little snare, bloating the AI's memory under heavy queries. Fixable, he asked. Already on it, Maya said, rewriting the patch live. But we can do better. Her eyes glinted. Turn it into a feature. Let the AI detect overflows, self-correct. Show them we're untouchable. Ethan nodded, adrenaline surging. They coded in tandem, fingers a blur, the patch morphing into a predictive debugging tool. By noon, they pushed it live, tweeting, Apex adapts. Bug caught, turned into strength. Try it. The response was electric. Coders called it genius. A VC offered $5 million on the spot. The sandbox stabilized, and Priya emailed, saw the fix. Impressed. Pilots greenlit. Victor's gambit had backfired. Nextlify's stock slid to $29 as the market closed, a 55% drop in a week. Ethan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. He's done, he said, almost to himself. Not yet, Maya warned, pulling up a new email. He's selling shares fast, trying to cash out before it hits zero. Ethan sat up, a new idea sparking. Then we buy. He opened his brokerage account, meager savings, but enough to start. He scooped up Nexlify stock at $28, then $27, texting a friend at a small VC firm. Nexlify's cheap. Hostile takeover chance. You in? The reply was instant. Hell yes. $10 million ready. By nightfall, Ethan owned 2% of Nexlify, his friend's VC another 5%. The stock stabilized at $25, but the damage was done. Lila's follow-up hit. Nexlify's fall. A CEO's hubris. A coder's revenge. Victor's office lights stayed on late, a lone figure in a dying empire. Ethan watched the ticker from his window, the city sprawling below. He cracked the giant. Now he'd claim it. The air in Nexlify's lobby felt stale, heavy with the scent of cleaning fluid and defeat. Ethan stepped through the revolving doors at 10:15 a.m., his sneakers scuffing the marble he'd crossed 1,000 times before. Today was different. No hoodie, no laptop bag, just a pressed gray blazer, the cheapest he could find at Nordstrom Rack, and a leather folio tucked under his arm. Inside it, the paperwork that would end Victor Grayson's reign, a hostile takeover agreement, signed by Ethan, his VC partner, and a coalition of small investors who jumped at the fire sale price of Nexlify stock. At $22 a share, they'd secured 51% control, plain and simple. The elevator ride to the 5th floor was silent, the hum of the machinery a faint echo of the server rooms he'd once lived in. His phone buzzed. Maya. Boards assembled. Victor's raging. You ready? He texted back. Born ready. A lie, maybe. His palms were sweaty, his pulse a drumbeat in his ears. But he'd come too far to flinch now. The executive wing was a ghost town. Empty cubicles, a lone janitor pushing a cart. Word had spread, layoffs looming, clients gone, the stock a carcass picked over by the market. Ethan's takeover bid had hit the wires yesterday, Lila Chin breaking it with a headline that stuck. From coder to conqueror, Ethan Carver buys Nexlify. The board had no choice but to meet him. They tried stalling, but 51% wasn't a negotiation, it was a guillotine. He pushed open the boardroom doors, the oak creaking under his hand. 10 pairs of eyes turned to him, Linda Hayes, Mark Ellison, the rest of the suits, faces etched with exhaustion and dread. At the head of the table stood Victor, his suit wrinkled, hair unkempt, a shadow of the polished titan who'd laughed Ethan out a week ago. The screen behind him showed the stock ticker frozen at $21.50, a flat line no one could revive. Ethan, Victor said, his voice a low growl, you've got some nerve walking in here. Ethan didn't blink. He set the folio on the table, sliding it toward Linda. I own 51%. This isn't a visit, it's a takeover. You've got the docs. Signed and filed. Linda opened the folder, her fingers trembling as she scanned the pages. Mark leaned over, muttering, Jesus, he's not bluffing. The room shifted, a collective intake of breath. Victor's face darkened, a storm brewing behind his eyes. You little snake, he spat, stepping closer. You think you can waltz in with your VC buddies and steal my company? I built this, me, not you. You were a grunt, a code monkey. This is my empire. Ethan met his glare, his voice steady as steel. You built it on my work. Core was mine, every line, every fix. You took the credit, then tried to ditch me for a cheaper team. You taught me results matter, not loyalty. Well, here's my result. He tapped the folio. Nexlify's mine now. Victor lunged forward, fist clenched, but Mark grabbed his arm, pulling him back. Victor, sit down. He's got the shares. It's done. No. Victor wrenched free, his voice cracking. He's a backstabber, a nobody who got lucky. You can't let him. Enough. Linda cut in, her tone ice cold. She closed the folio, looking at Ethan. You've got control. What's your play? Ethan took a breath, the room's weight pressing on him. First, Victor's out. Effective now. I'm firing him. A gasp rippled through the board, but he kept going. Second, we pivot. Nexlify Apex becomes the core product, full rollout, no compromises. We rebuild trust with clients, starting with Zenith and Cloudsies. Third, no layoffs for the tech team. They're the backbone. We cut fat from the top instead. Victor laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. You're delusional. This place is a corpse. You'll bury it in a month. Maybe, Ethan said, turning to him. But it'll be my corpse to bury. You're done here. The boardroom fell silent. the air thick with the end of an era. Linda nodded slowly. We'll vote to confirm. All in favor of recognizing Ethan Carver as majority owner and terminating Victor Grayson's tenure. Hands rose. 1, then 2, then all but Victor's. Mark avoided Ethan's eyes. Linda stared at the table, but the motion passed. Victor's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him like air from a punctured tire. Security's waiting, Ethan said, his voice quieter now. You've got 10 minutes to clear out. Victor didn't move at first, his gaze locked on Ethan, a mix of fury, disbelief, and something broken. Then he grabbed his jacket from the chair, slung it over his shoulder, and stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The echo lingered, a final note in his downfall. Ethan turned to the board. Meeting's adjourned. I'll address the staff in an hour. They filed out, leaving him alone in the room that had once been Victor's throne. He walked to the windows, the valley sprawling below, Google's campus glinting in the distance, the 101 a ribbon of motion. His reflection stared back, a man he barely recognized. Not a coder anymore, not a cog. An owner. Downstairs, the staff gathered in the atrium, a sea of anxious faces, coders, designers, admins who'd watched the ship sink and wondered if they'd drown with it. Ethan stepped to the edge of the mezzanine, gripping the railing. No mic, no notes, just him. I'm Ethan Carver, he said, his voice carrying over the murmurs. As of today, I own Nextlify. Victor's gone. We're not cutting jobs, you're the heart of this place. We're rebuilding with Apex, something I built for the future. It's not his anymore. It's ours. A ripple of shock, then applause, tentative at first, then louder. A dev in the back shouted, about time. Laughter broke the tension, and Ethan felt the knot in his chest loosen. He raised a hand, quieting them. We start tomorrow. New direction, new rules. It's some rest. He stepped back, the cheers fading as he headed to Victor's old office, his office now. The desk was bare, the tablet Victor had smashed still cracked on the floor. Ethan sat, the leather chair creaking under him, and pulled out his phone. A text from Maya. You did it. Drinks on me tonight. He smiled, replying, You're hired too. CTO. Her response was a string of exclamation marks. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the room. Ethan leaned back, the weight of the day settling in. He'd taken the giant down. Now the real work began. The view from the top of Nextlify's tower was a quiet marvel, a sprawl of Silicon Valley stretching out beneath a late afternoon sky, golden light glinting off glass campuses, the 101 a distant hum of ambition. Ethan Carver stood at the window of his new office, a minimalist space he'd stripped down to essentials, a sleek desk, a single monitor, and a chair that didn't scream CEO. The cracked tablet Victor had left behind was long gone, swept away with the rest of his ghost. It was March 6, 2026, exactly 1 year since Ethan had walked out with a resignation letter and a dream on a USB drive. Now, he owned the building. The office door swung open, Maya Patel striding in with her usual chaos, laptop under one arm, a coffee mug emblazoned with code or die in the other. You're brooding again, she said, dropping into the chair across from him. Stocks are up, clients are happy, and you've got that. I'm rethinking my life stare. What's up? Ethan turned, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Just taking it in. Feels surreal. Surreal's an understatement, she said, kicking her boots onto the desk. Nextlify's back at $60 a share. Apex is the industry standard, and I'm CTO of a company I didn't think we'd keep alive past week 1. You did this, Ethan. We did this, he corrected, sitting down. The past year had been a blur of 18-hour days, rolling out Nextlify Apex to Zenith, Cloudsies, and a dozen new clients, rehiring the tech team Victor had nearly gutted, and rebuilding Nextlify's name from the ashes of his arrogance. The board had stayed, humbled and compliant, while Ethan and Maya steered the ship. No layoffs, no outsourcing, just raw innovation and a promise to the staff. You're not cogs here. The numbers told the story. Revenue up 40%, latency down to milliseconds, a cybersecurity suite that had black hat hackers tweeting grudging respect. Lila Chin's follow-up piece last month had sealed it. Nextlify Reborn. Ethan Carver's quiet revolution. Ethan had framed it, a rare nod to ego, and hung it in the break room, not his office. This wasn't about him. It was about the future. His laptop pinged, an email popping up. He opened it, eyebrows lifting. Victor, he said, voice flat. Maya sat up, boots hitting the floor. No way. What's he want? Ethan turned the screen to her. The message was short, typed in a rush. Ethan, I've been consulting, small gig, barely scraping by. Nextlify's thriving now. Any openings? I'd take anything. Victor. No apology, no groveling, just a man grasping at straws. Maya snorted. He's got balls, I'll give him that. What's the play? Ethan stared at the words, Victor's voice echoing from a year ago. Replaceable. A cog. You'll beg for this job. He'd spent 6 years under that man's shadow, building an empire Victor claimed as his own, only to be discarded. Now the tables had flipped, and Victor was the one begging. It should have felt good, triumphant, even. But it didn't. It felt hollow. He hit delete, the email vanishing without a reply. Nothing, he said. He's done. Maya nodded, a flicker of approval in her eyes. Good. Let him rot in obscurity. Ethan leaned back, the chair creaking softly. Obscurity was Victor's fate now, a footnote in Nextlify's story, a cautionary tale for the next hotshot CEO. Ethan had no time for gloating. The inbox was already piling up. Zenith wanted a new feature. A startup in Austin pitched a partnership, and Maya had flagged a bug in Apex's latest beta. The work never stopped, and he didn't want it to. Speaking of obscurity, Maya said, pulling her laptop open, I've got something. Apex 2.0 early specs. Predictive scaling for quantum servers. Crazy stuff, but it's the next leap. Ethan's pulse quickened, the coder in him waking up. Show me. She spun the screen around, a mock-up glowing graphs of throughput, a sleek UI that danced between data points like a living thing. Still rough, she said, but if we nail it, we're not just leading the market, we're redefining it. He scrolled through the code, his mind already tracing the logic. Memory overhead's tricky with quantum. We'd need a new compression layer. Thought you'd say that, she grinned, tossing him a USB stick. Prototype's on there. Play with it. Ethan caught it, the familiar weight sparking a memory, his old Batman drive, the night he'd walked away. That USB had carried Apex into existence. This one could carry it further. Tonight, he said. After the staff meeting. The meeting was at 5 o'clock, a quarterly check-in he'd insisted on keeping informal, no suits, just pizza and updates in the atrium. He stood on the mezzanine again, looking down at the team, 80 faces now, a mix of veterans and new hires, all buzzing with energy. The applause when he stepped up was warm, unforced. Year one's in the books, he said, hands in his pockets. We're not just back, we're better. Apex is ours, and it's setting the pace. Next up, we scale smarter, new clients, new tech. You're the ones making it happen. Questions? A hand shot up, Jasper, a wiry dev with neon green hair. Heard rumors about quantum stuff. That real? Ethan smiled. Real as it gets. Stick around, you'll see it first. Laughter rippled through, and the Q&A rolled on, sharp and lively. When it ended, the team lingered, swapping ideas over pepperoni slices, a hum of purpose filling the space. Back in his office, Ethan plugged in Maya's USB, the prototype loading under the soft glow of his monitor. The city lights winked on outside, a constellation of possibility. He cracked his knuckles, the old thrill surging code, chaos, creation. Victor was gone, Nextlify was his, and the horizon was wide open. He typed the first line, a quiet promise to himself. This was just the beginning. And that's where Ethan's story ends. What do you think? Would you have deleted Victor's email or given him a second shot? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love this tale of code, revenge, and triumph, smash that like button and subscribe for more audio adventures. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's next. See you soon in our next story.